Good morning, Jean Marie.
Hey Dawn, how are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having
Good.
me.
I am so happy to have you on the Great Resignation today.
I'm
It's
happy to be here.
yeah. Can you speak up just a little bit louder? I can hardly hear you. Or is it,
Yeah.
I wonder if your volume.
Tell me if this helps. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Great.
We
Well,
want to make sure we can record it for folks. So anyway, folks, I'm so excited to have Jean Marie Keevins with us. Jean Marie comes to us with a really cool background, starting from artistry and puppetry and freelancing, and now she has this phenomenal executive coaching business where she works with people on one-on-one in groups and does workshops. And before we jump in, Jean Marie and I, we dig into what advice you might have for people. I just want to remind folks that I'm Dawn Parks with Shimula. We've been doing the Great Resignation for a couple of months now, and our whole intention here is to work with employees, employers, people who want to or are considering making a big jump, because of a lot of people are just jumping right now, right? They're just tired and frustrated of the way things have been in the past. They're looking for a new way forward. And if that's the thing to do, go you. We want to help you. But sometimes jumping is not the right thing to do. And we want you to think about things before you make the jump. Those of us who have been entrepreneurs for a while, we know that there are things that we wish we had understood or thought about before we made the big jump. So we're all for it, but we also want to make sure that you are, you go into it with an open mind and a touch of reality. I'm a maverick, so I like a touch of reality. I don't mind taking a big risk, but some people can't tolerate the risk. So anyway, that's why we're here today. Is we've got Jean Marie Keevins. She's from New York City and has been hanging out with the Shimula gals for about I don't know, year and a half now. And we just love the work that she's doing. So Jean Marie, why don't you take just a minute, introduce yourself, and then we're going to kind of dive in on some questions and see what you have to say.
sure. Thank you. Yeah, I've been hanging out with the Shimula girls, as you say, for probably a year and a half. I would say that's right. And I feel really blessed to have crossed paths with the two of you. Um, because I too was at a crossroads where I was like, okay, I know where I'm going, I know I'm doing this, but I need support. We all need support, right? Even when we're going rogue, somehow we still need support from others. And I, like you, a maverick is one of my um, qualities, and yes, I go. So yeah, my background is in puppetry, as you said. Yes, I have Kermit on speed dial, and I've dressed Miss Piggy, and I worked on Broadway and commercials and films. I just worked on a TV show for Apple called Helpsters. I have a lot of wonderful opportunities and a really wild background to some, but to me, not at all. Nothing I have done has been that wild. Everything had a reason and had a purpose, and I am very much a purpose driven person. So I may choose an alternative route to others, but that's just because I enjoy storytelling.
Well, storytelling is really key. You know what I mean? And I think you have this kind of incredible relationship to what I call the ridiculous, right? It's about thinking outside the box. And to kind of step back for a second, I mentioned that I'm a maverick, and Jean Marie mentioned that she's also a maverick. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what we're talking about, uh, we uh, we at Shimula, we offer a money personality quiz, and the money path personality quiz really helps you understand your relationship to money and your job, but kind of in a fun, playful way, instead of, oh, you are introverted. Nothing against Myers-Briggs, first of all. I love all the assessments, but
Yeah.
sometimes they're so solemn and serious and important.
Yeah.
And the one that we have allows you to see yourself in a more playful way. And it gives you a way to examine your money conversations that you have inherited over the years in a way that doesn't make you feel bad, wrong, old, stupid, whatever it might be. So anyway, we were just mentioning this about the Maverick, but so Jean Marie and I both really like to think outside the box. We like to work on really big, risky kinds of conversations that some people would be like, oh, I don't know about that. But I know that a lot of people who are jumping are really jumping into another set of risk, right? They're jumping in, they're, who knows what's going to happen? We didn't think we'd be in COVID for 2 years, and 5 years ago, whatever plans we made are whoop, gone,
Yeah.
right? They're not working now. So if you're, when you think about taking risks, or you think about, when you first, so I don't know how long you were a puppeteer, and how long you worked because you really have worked like as a freelancer for a very long time. What are some of the things that you wish you had known or understood
Yeah.
before you made the big jump, that it took longer than you expected to figure out? Can you mention some of those things for us?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I ended up meeting the two of you, actually. I do want to clarify one thing for those people who think that Mavericks mean that we're wild people, which I am. I'm a wild person. There's no question about that. But don't let the bun fool you. But I also, at the same time, on Myers-Briggs, I am an introvert. My first thing is not to run into a field and scream, "Hey guys, everybody look at me," right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if there's a fire, I will be the first one to run in the field, get everybody organized, get them moving in the direction. Like, if there's purpose, then I say, "Okay, how am I doing this? Great," and I go. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I am definitely an introvert as well, and had to train myself to bring out my inner cruise director. So that's, I just want to clarify that. And
No, I
Oprah,
think it's a really good point, because it isn't about ridiculous, like stupid or silly or harebrained.
yeah,
It
and I'm
isn't
all
like
that.
but it isn't like tomorrow you and I say, hey, you know what? I read about this guy named Elon Musk, and so I think we should go create an electric car. And neither one of us have any engineering or skills in that area. Not that we couldn't do it, but
Right.
that isn't where we operate from. But we help you think outside of your normal range of thinking,
Yes.
right? And help you how to measure and manage risk.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I just want to clarify, because if I heard somebody speaking about me, I would be like, "Whoo, that woman is intimidating." And no, it's a trained thing to be able to say, "Okay, I'm moving forward now." And Oprah is an introvert. Amy Schumer is an introvert. Like, there's a lot of people who are ridiculous and go big who are introverts, and are also mavericks. So when you said something that I wish I had known, yes, I am a serial entrepreneur, and or have worked for serial entrepreneurs. So
mm,
if it's not my business that I'm running, it's probably yours, right? Um, and there's something wonderful about that, because the accountability, the buck doesn't stop with me; it stops super close to me. And I understand that, and I value that leadership and that ownership that I need to take in that position. But when working for others, there's a bit of a security net, right? And
right,
you can build that thing into something that serves you without worried about your absolute risk, because it's really their absolute risk. And you do that still taking care of them, right, with them in mind. But you have shelter when you're working for somebody else, and when you work for yourself, it's scary. It is scary. And I came to you and Liz because I have a very good understanding of a budget and how it works. And I'm not excited that I have that skill. I just have that skill, right? It's necessary. And I learned it running my own companies. I've learned it running other people's companies. I've learned how to scale on other people's companies, right? I've taken the risk on them. And that's been great. Um, but when it came to myself, I was aware, and the pandemic is what did this to me, that I am an introvert. I'll slip into your DM and ask you a question. I might talk to you one on one on the side, but I'm never going to scream across the room like, "I love you, so and so, and I need to know this from you." Like, it's never going to happen. Um, so, finding the two of you, I met you, I believe, one on one.
mm,
That in that conversation, I realized the thing that's holding me back from growing my business is that I've become comfortable in my studio apartment, where I don't have to talk to a million people. I can take minor steps forward, but my budget was small. And I was starting to think small because my life was getting smaller due to COVID, which is
Mhm.
fine. That's not a bad thing, right? That it
Right.
has asked us all to look at our lives more intimately. But what I realized was the thing I didn't know was my my baggage with money could be addressed through my personality, right? Like if you look at your checkbook and you see your values, where do you give money to? Where do you have to pay, and where do you decide to pay? Right? Your
Mhm.
values are there, and that has always been how I looked at my money. But what I didn't look at is how my actual personality was making those choices, and meeting the two of you was super helpful there.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for the plug. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that. But
yeah,
but what you're pointing to is that when we found that personality quiz, it really made a big difference to us as well. There's something different about working, like you said, when you have a safety net with someone else, you can take risks and the other person really is going to shoulder them at the end of the day. But when you go out on your own, and a lot of folks who are pivoting, who are going to go out on their own, you want to start a new business, you want to work from home in a whole different way, or employers who you've got people who are, you've put a lot of money into these people, you've trained them and they've been productive and now they're looking at leaving. You want to, you want to start to think about, the whole nature of the risk.
yes.
And as an employer, you can even coach your people who are thinking about leaving and, wish them well, but make sure they understand the risks before they jump. And maybe there's something that you can do as an employer to support them in making the decision so that they're happy while they stay or they're happy when they go. But you're right. When we started, I mean, I've helped people start business. I teach entrepreneurship at Purdue University. I mean, I I understand like all the nuts and bolts, but until I actually went out on my own a few years ago, you don't really understand it's kind of like I could tell you how to make an apple pie. I can show you pictures of the apple pie, but until you take a bite of the apple pie and smell it, you don't have the experience of the apple pie,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's what you and I both do, Jean Marie, right? We work with people to move them from envisioning the apple pie
Hmm.
to having the experience of it, right?
Yes.
Because you've launched this really cool coaching business, and I'd love for our people to hear about your coaching business and what it is that they would get from you in this experience of jumping. And because I know a lot of it's based on what you've learned being on your own as a freelancer and a puppeteer.
Yeah. Oh, freelance. It's funny. I for years I didn't realize that I was a freelancer, which is hilarious. I was a member of the freelancers union, but because I knew where I was going and what I was doing and who I wanted to be surrounded with, and it was all so crystal clear to me, I just felt like, oh well, this is how you do, right? This is how we do what we do. And then I started working for someone else, and I was like, oh, that's right. There are 401ks,
Right.
right? Like someone else will also pay into that with you. Oh,
Hey.
right. I was doing my Roth IRA and like high fiving myself in the corner because none of my other peers were doing that, right? So I'm winning. And then when I started working for someone else, I realized, oh gosh, that left this much money on the table. I'm paying for my health insurance and my copays are big. By working for somebody else, I'm leaving this much money on the table. Like
Mhm.
there was a lot of factors that I had forgotten about. So when I started working for somebody and we built that company to a place that was really like covering things, like I was set, um, leaving was terrifying,
Mhm.
terrifying. And for me, sadly, I'm somebody that it takes the universe sometimes to intervene. It's not me just saying I'm going to go. I'm making the plan. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And I don't go and I don't go. And then the universe is like, and you're like, oh, okay.
Now I'm out.
I gotta
Gotta figure
go.
it out.
Yeah, like now what? Right? And I'm lucky because there's almost always a plan sitting there, but wow. Um, so, what I do with coaching, I have like, I work a lot with analogies. And one thing that I often say to people is like, is this a moment to rip off the Band-Aid? And when we rip
Can
off
you
Band-Aid,
say that again? Is this a moment?
to rip off the Band-Aid,
Oh, got it. Okay.
right? Because often, before you rip off a Band-Aid, like, let's get real. What do? You peek. You look in there and you're like, is it still, I don't know. And then you pull it back a little on the edge, like, how stuck to me is this? Like, right, there's a whole lot of like investigation that goes on that we get sneaky about. And in coaching, I like to say, okay, we have two ways we can do this. We can just close our eyes and rip off the Band-Aid, or we can get sneaky and we can look around and we can figure it out and we can strategize and decide, what do we want to do?
Mhm.
How do we want to approach this? Because eventually the air is going to hit this. This is happening, right?
Right.
And there's a moment where it will sting. You're going to rip it off. That's going to hurt. And a little while later, there's the sting. And eventually fabric's going to touch it, right? There's those moments where you're healing, you're growing, you're getting better, but there's that like, I felt it moment until you're who you want to be again. You're the new person.
Mhm.
And I mean, it depends on who you are, but that's the like, let's just be human about it analogy. I support people in the thoughts of, am I ready for this? Am I moving forward? What does that look like? And not just the soft skills. We talk a lot about soft skills these days. I'm like, where's the hard skill? If you don't know how to do math, let's talk about who's going to do the math for you. We're not trying to
Right.
turn you into a math whiz. Who's the team? What does that look like? Right? Whatever it is in your life, entrepreneur or I want to have a baby, like whatever your thing is, if you can't afford to have a baby, you better be able to have childcare because you're going to be working. What does that look like?
Right.
So I help people get into the band-aid ripping scenario of healing wherever they are in that moment, exploring what they could be and moving into
Got it. So people come to you at an early stage, like when they're in what we would call like an ideation kind of a stage,
it.
right?
Often.
So can you say a little bit more about the stages of, how, and
Yeah.
remember, guys, folks, whoever, if you're listening now, or if you're listening in a future podcast, she's built this coaching practice based on everything she has learned by being boots on the ground as a freelancer entrepreneur. A freelancer really is someone who is just going around in many ways, just getting business and, making money, hopefully a lot. An entrepreneur actually has designed a business. What I think of an entrepreneur, someone who's designed a business, someone who has, you've got a business plan, you've got the financials, it's a, it's a, you're thinking about marketing, you're thinking about all the pieces, you're working on the business and in the business.
Yeah.
Freelancers are often just working in the business.
Yeah.
But you have created this coaching program for freelancers and entrepreneurs or people who are corporate executives looking to make a leap. So
Yeah.
talk about these 4 phases that you walk people through in your programs.
May I just touch on one thing before I do that?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the people, yes, I was a freelancer, so I have a lot of understanding and a lot of empathy for what that is because
Oh,
that has a very specific personality type, and freelancers, while they seem thick-skinned, are often very tender people because they
oh.
have to follow the impulse to what is the next thing. Um,
Mhm.
and I understand that. I understand that they're turtles with shells. There's something very tender under there, and so you tread lightly while you're pushing hard. So I get that. With entrepreneurs, it's vision work, right? You're doing the vision work, but it's building the team behind you. I was working for a company that was ready to scale, and we were like, how do we do this? And we had no money to do that. So we went, but we could see that it was time. And so we went to Columbia University and we found their small business program, and they came behind us and supported us and helped us revamp what the original business plan was to reflect the scaling vision that we had, right? We
Got
knew
it.
we could see the vision, but we couldn't articulate it. We had hit a plateau. And so they taught us the way to get to the next place. And then from there, we assemble the new team. So I work with people to do that kind of thing. But I've also spent time in corporate America working with billionaires, hedge fund owners, and high achieving people. And so for
Mhm.
me, what is most interesting is finding high achieving people in any avenue of their life and working with them to get unstuck, right? Like that's the whole ticket, is figuring out how to unstick yourself. So I always
Okay.
say I have a life degree in unstuckedness. Um, in terms of my approach, I start with the ideation. So, what is it? Where do you want to go when you're thinking about growing? What are all the possibilities? Okay, now what's real, right? What's real? So, you have all these ideas, and then we move into the story. In the storytelling, which idea actually fits you? What
Mm.
story is in line with your values? Um, And also, like when you think of the dream, I always think about like me sitting on the deck of my studio looking at my house and the water. And I've paid for all this in cash, of course. In order to tell that story, I have to really be able to see where I am and how I
Mhm.
got there, right? And then we start making the changes, right? I picture a pebble walkway between my house and this studio. And every idea that I have, if it's not a pebble on that walkway, if it doesn't contribute to that, then I'm not going in the right direction. So we have to explore change and decide if it's a pebble on our walkway. And then
Mm.
there's sustainability, right? Which is purely a complete and total life value of mine, right? I
Right.
live as sustainable a lifestyle as you can in New York City. I'm sure there are ways that I can improve, but once I've gotten through my change, I need to know how to live there,
Right.
right? So when we're coaching, I don't just coach people to the problem or through the problem. We spend some time on the other side
Mm.
because change is uncomfortable. And when you say, I've made the change, and then everybody's going and doing their things, you're just standing there like, here I am in
Right.
my house with my new car. Okay, now what? So
Mhm.
we need to know how to live there.
No, that's great. That's really great. A lot of people think that once they get moving, then the whole world will follow behind them. And people quite often do not want um, you to change, because they're going to have to change, or it's going to interrupt their life somehow, and they're not quite sure how to do it. And they don't want to catch you if you're failing. So people don't really often know, your friends and family really don't know how to support you. So it's so important to find the team that can support you from an unbiased point of view, who can understand your vision and bring some rationality and some uh, leveling to it, right? So that you've got somebody who's talking to you from a place of, I want to support you, and have you thought about this? And help you look under all the rocks
Yeah.
for the failure, because failure, you have to understand all of those pieces in order, and you have to do that to be sustainable, right? You don't want to build a bridge if there's going to be a big wind and you haven't created the right kind of joists for it, right?
Yeah.
Looks pretty, isn't going to last when the first car goes over it, right? Um, so it's great that you have those 4 stages, and then you might hover, as my partner Liz says, you might hover in one of those areas longer than another, but the objective being you move from idea to story to what changes are needed, and then how do you sustain them over time. And it's all iteration. You're always moving forward or backward. You're always expanding or dying, right? So, and even the best people on the planet have coaches. I mean, if you watched the football game
Typically.
last night, maybe you did or didn't, right? The Georgia Bulldogs against the Alabama Crimson Tide, all those players, the way they all have coaches, and the coaches have coaches. We all have coaches. So if you want to get somewhere, you need someone to be able to see what you can't see about yourself. And with that, oh my gosh, it's 11:28 already, and I have another class that starts in 2 minutes called the
Oh,
Money
goodness.
Master Plan Mastermind. We'd love to have you folks join us or learn more about it. It's a course, it's an online do-it-yourself course where you create your strategy from vision all the way through to tactics for year 1. And we do quite a bit of coaching. Jean Marie has some coaching programs. And Jean Marie, we'll have you put that information into the live chat in Facebook, so you guys can reach out to either one of us. But we're doing this all the time. And Jean Marie, I'd love to have you back so we can talk more about specific experiences that you had, that how you might coach someone through those ideas, so that they know that they could, that you are the ideal coach for them. So I just want to say thanks for spending time with us, me, today. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Thank you. This was fun. This was fun.
Great.
Have a great class.
Okay. Bye.